Back when I was in film school, one of my professors gave me an article he had published that was about the significance of what he called the 5 cyberfilms of 1995. 5 big-budget, high-concept Hollywood movies that dealt with the emergence of the internet age. Since I have the memory of a goldfish, I can't really remember what his thesis was, but I do remember that the article was about how pop culture deals with new technology and how the cyberpunk genre in particular was being used to explore the possibilities and pitfalls waiting for us on what we used to call the information superhighway. Since 1995 is now 30 years behind us, I thought I should revisit the topic and talk about these 5 cyberfilms. They might look antiquated and even a little ridiculous now, but back then, they were on the cutting edge of sci-fi cinema, and today, they are more relevant than you might expect.
Come on, man, cheer up. World's gonna end in 10 minutes anyway.
Have you ever jacked in? Have you ever wire tripped? No? Virgin brain. Well, don't worry, we're gonna start you off right. This isn't like TV only better. This is life. It's a piece of somebody's life. Pure and uncut, straight from the cerebral cortex. You're there. You're doing it, seeing it, hearing it. You're feeling it. It's about the stuff that you can't have, right? Like walking into a liquor store with a .357 Magnum in your hands, feeling the adrenaline pumping through your veins. I can make it happen. I can get you anything you want. You just have to talk to me, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. I am your priest. I am your shrink. I am your main connection to the switchboard of the soul. I'm the magic man, the Santa Claus of the subconscious. You say it. You even think it. You can have it. Are we beginning to see the possibilities here? We begin today with none other than the Hollywood icon James Cameron. Now, I haven't spoken much about the man on this channel, at least outside my live streams, because the OCD part of my brain wants to start at the beginning, with his start under Roger Corman and going through his breakout with Terminator and so on, but now my procrastination on that score has caught up with me, and I find myself covering a movie where I have to talk about him. I will tell the James Cameron story eventually, but today we begin well into the man's illustrious career. In 1986, Cameron began work on a narrative called Strange Days, a techno-thriller love story set on the eve of the new millennium, intending it for his future wife/ex-wife, Kathryn Bigelow. The project was shelved for a few years, but after working together on Point Break, Cameron and Bigelow fleshed out Strange Days into a detailed treatment, which Jay Cox turned into a full-blown screenplay. With a little more tinkering from Cameron, the initial draft was completed in 1992, the same year as the Rodney King riots. Cameron was able to secure funding for 2 projects, True Lies and Strange Days, in a $100 million deal between his Lightstorm Entertainment and 20th Century Fox. Lightstorm's research division then went to work devising brand new camera systems for the 9 ambitious Wunner-style first-person sequences, which I'll talk about in more detail a little later in this video. Over a year later, Strange Days was set to begin filming in June of 1994, the same month as the highly publicized murders of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson. For the lead role of Lenny, there were a lot of names thrown around, but it primarily came down to Andy Garcia and Ralph Fiennes. Even though Cameron wasn't convinced that Fiennes would be a good choice, Bigelow went for him just days after he earned an Academy Award for his supporting role in Schindler's List. While that role as the evil Amon Goth is easily his most terrifying, and while Voldemort is no doubt his most well-known role, Lenny Nero is my favorite Ralph Fiennes performance. He's a slick, slimy, pathetic salesman who still manages to be lovable, relatable, and even a little sexy. And though I mean no offense to Andy Garcia, an actor I do appreciate, I don't think his version would have been as good. However, for me, Ralph Fiennes is not the standout performer in Strange Days. Instead, it's Angela Bassett as his real love interest, Lornette Mason, the ass-kicking limo driver who is the true heart and soul of the story. I'd seen Bassett in other movies before this, like Boys in the Hood and Malcolm X, but Strange Days is the movie that made me fall head over heels in love with her. And long story short, I'm still in love with her today. Sorry, wife. Meanwhile, Juliette Lewis was cast as the femme fatale Faith, in large part because she could sing the songs in the movie, including Rid of Me, which were originally written by P.J. Harvey. The part of Faith's manager, the red herring playback-addled Gant, almost went to U2's Bono, though he dropped out for undisclosed reasons and was replaced by perennial 90s villain Michael Wincott, well known at the time for playing Top Dollar in Alex Proyas's The Crow, as well as Guy of Gisborne in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Why a spoon, cousin? Why not an axe?
Because it's dull, you twit. It'll hurt more.
Lenny's ex-cop best friend, Max, is played by Tom Sizemore, while Vincent D'Onofrio and William Fichtner play the two corrupt racist cops Steckler and Engelman. Joseph Summer plays Police Commissioner Strickland, Richard Edson plays Tick, and the Canadian power dancer Louise Lecavalier plays the formidable Vita.
Enjoy the party.
Filming on Strange Days took place entirely in Los Angeles over the summer of 1994, with locations including Sunset Boulevard and the Los Angeles subway system. The street party at the climax of the movie was filmed at the corner of 5th and Flower, during a rave held specifically for the film, with bands such as Aphex Twin and Lady Miss Keir playing to a crowd of around 10,000 partiers, all of whom had to pay a $10 cover charge. Though the filmmakers got all the footage they needed, the rave had to be shut down early due to several ecstasy overdoses. And before you ask, yes, I do like the soundtrack, but it's not as good in my opinion as the Hackers soundtrack. But I grant that's more a matter of personal taste than anything else. As for the POV sequences, a filmmaking marvel for 1995, they had to straight up invent new technology to pull it off, utilizing an 8-pound 35mm camera with specialty lenses, video assist, and remotely controlled focus pulling, along with a brand new pogo-style Steadicam setup that would allow the camera to swing around like the human eye without being so jarring that audiences would have to reach for the Dramamine. On top of that, the lighting technicians had to use complicated rigging setups, some of which were used at night, that had to be invisible to the camera, which was constantly swinging around in full 360 degrees. Even the digital tearing that marks the beginning and end of each sequence had to be innovated. Though these parts of the film are easily the most impressive feat the movie pulls off, it's ironic that you could probably pull it off yourself these days with just a high-def phone camera strapped to your head and some moderate skill with After Effects. After extensive post-production, with Cameron himself doing a lot of uncredited editing work, Strange Days released in October of 1995 to a mixed critical reception. Many critics applauded the filmmaking and acting, while others lambasted it as exploitative trash. Combined with a lackluster marketing campaign, despite what I think is the best teaser trailer ever produced, and a generally poor season at the box office, and Strange Days absolutely bombed, only earning a domestic gross of $8 million against its $42 million budget. As a result, it nearly ended Kathryn Bigelow's career, though she would eventually recover and earn both Best Picture and Best Director Oscars for 2008's The Hurt Locker. As for Strange Days, it has gotten an improved critical reputation over the decades and has maintained a small but dedicated cult following, of which I consider myself a member. Structurally, it's a hard-boiled murder mystery styled after classic film noir, only with heavy cyberpunk overtones. And when I say cyberpunk, I mean both the cyber half of the equation and the punk half, because not all cyberfilms get that right. The narrative deals with black market technology in a dystopian setting and hits you over the head with its sociopolitics, something that can be said of any William Gibson novel. Granted, it doesn't deal with cyberspace as much as the other cyberpunk films I've covered, but it still feels true to all of the trappings of the subgenre. The squid headset that serves as the central gimmick is very similar, in fact, to Gibson's fictional SimStims technology. In Strange Days, there's a lot to chew on thematically, but once you strip it down to the basics, this is a film about desperation. On a personal level, Lenny is so desperate to recover a lost love that he is blind to the love right in front of him. But on a societal level, this is a future where people have been driven to desperation by injustices both real and imagined, and have found a new way to escape into the wire trip. However, as Lenny discovers, the wire trip is not free from that same desperation, and it has forced him to come face to face with the ugliness not only of his chosen profession, but also the ugliness infecting his world. There's also plenty of other thematic angles you could approach the movie from, like voyeurism, addiction, or even a commentary on film itself, and you could argue it served as a warning to the kind of feedback loop society would find itself trapped in by internet culture a decade or so later, after the widespread adoption of social media. It's a movie that understood the cultural moment on a psychological and sociological level, even if it had to accelerate the speed of things in order to set the story at the turn of the century. It's also a very tightly written script with intelligent dialogue that ricochets between hard-boiled romantic language and snappy cyberpunk jargon, only settling down when it has something truly important to say.
This is your life! Right here, right now! Memories were meant to fade, Lenny. They're designed that way for a reason.
There's also some good screenwriting tricks that you could highlight in a film school class, like the scene where Lenny gifts a double amputee a clip where he's running on a beach. In Screenwriting 101, that serves as his save the cat moment, an early scene where we see the gentler human side of a character that might otherwise be seen as slimy and unlikable. There's also a crazy attention to detail and a few fun Easter eggs for those eagle-eyed enough to spot them. For example, in this scene, the drink the lawyer has on the table is not a martini, it's a Gibson, as in William Gibson. Anyway, I could gush about Strange Days for hours because it's not just my favorite of the 5 cyberfilms of 1995, but it's also, objectively speaking, the most well-made. Therefore, 30 years later, it can be seen as nothing less than a sci-fi classic. Now, as a final note, what have we learned about these cyberfilms? I will say that going back and watching them all again, I was surprised by how predictive they were for what the internet age has to offer, both good and bad. All 5 films are different. Some are more goofy, some more serious, some style themselves as thrillers, while others are almost comedic in tone. But they are all grappling with a new era of technological advancement, one where digital identity is a greater currency than gold. Maybe it's confirmation bias, but to me, it reinforces my previously held belief that science fiction is a window into the future, whether by prediction or invention. And as a genre of storytelling, it gives us things to think about and prepare for, with hidden prophecies we don't appreciate until they have come true. I love all 5 of these films, even more than I did before, and I encourage all of you to be willing to go back and look at them through the lens of the modern world. Then you can tell me what you see reflected back at you. And that's all for today, my fellow Earthlings. Which of the 5 cyberfilms is your favorite? Let me know in the comments, and while you're there, don't forget to punch those like and subscribe buttons. I really want to get to 18,000 subbies by the end of the year. Thank you for watching, and until next time when we'll go beneath one of the best sci-fi franchises of all time, this is the Unapologetic Geek, telling you to never be ashamed of what you love. As long as you're not hurting anybody.
You're just an 18-year-old girl taking a shower. Are you beginning to see the possibilities here?